Going on, everybody? So Q.U.E.E.N just a few months away, September, and it's funny. So we got this information on the history of Q.U.E.E.N back in the start of 2018. It's covering quite a bit, guys. What it seems like is we are going to be talking about two arcs prior to the scene we saw during the network test, and based off of that information and that assumption that I'm having, I think what's going to be happening is we'll be having a time travel back during our playthrough so we get more context of our current situation. So if you have not yet seen any of the network test gameplay footage of the story pieces, more importantly, firstly, I have that full, all of it on my channel, so go ahead and take a look at that. And so what's going to happen is, not that this is going to 100% make sense right away, but things are going to connect. The things you were seeing in trailers, they're going to make more sense now. So I will be playing this game all throughout on my channel. So if you are interested to see, where this story picks up and follow along with me, I encourage you to subscribe, hit that bell, and leave a like. But without further ado, let's get into the history of Q.U.E.E.N's world.
Eat or be eaten. If those are our only two options, I choose to eat.
So it all begins with the Great Collapse. The Great Collapse is the name of the calamity that suddenly attacked the world, and the Thorns of Judgment destroyed the greater parts of most of the cities that were around at the time, and it's honestly said that nearly half of mankind died during this.
The end came without warning. The age of the immoral, pierced by the thorns of judgment. The human race, as it once was, is no more. To gain strength and resist destruction, humanity was thrown away, unaware of the darkness hidden within their new power.
And this led into the birth of the Revenants. So Revenants, as we've kind of picked up by now, are artificially created and immortal soldiers made for the purpose of defeating the strange creatures referred to as monsters that appeared alongside the world's destruction, aka alongside the Great Collapse. They possess extremely high physical abilities compared to a regular human, as we've seen, and can vanish and revive any number of times as long as their heart is not destroyed.
Covered. There's no coming back if you get hit there.
You were killed 2 days ago, and now you've returned.
So the question is, how were these Revenants created? And that was with the BOR parasite. So the BOR is an abbreviation for a parasite known as the biological organ regenerative formula. It parasites onto the heart of a corpse that has lost its biological functions and can control and operate all of its organs, including the brain, by pumping its own blood throughout the body. So by implanting an improved BOR parasite into the heart of a dead human in order to keep the corrosion level at a certain condition, the Revenant, an immortal being that can maintain its natural will, was born. And so these Revenants have a few characteristics. One of them is called fogification, which is a self-defense function by the way of the BOR parasite in the heart of a Revenant that occurs when the functions of a Revenant's body are stopped. The cells that make up the body disperse into the air, and the body revives through the reformation of the cells. So essentially, this is what happens when you die. If you remember, while playing the network test, if you did get the chance, each time you died, you turn into that glowing, reddish with a little bit of an orange tint before, you respawn at that missile. Another characteristic is ashification. This is essentially how a Revenant dies. Total ashification happens when the bond between a Revenant's host body and the body cells collapse. And in this event, a Revenant will never again be able to revive and essentially meets their death. Something else that's able to happen to Revenants is memory loss. And so in situations where a Revenant repeatedly dies and revives again, the parasite in their body becomes damaged and memory loss begins to occur. The Revenants themselves are unable to notice that fact though, that they are losing their memories. And so if you remember, while playing through the network test, the enemies that we were fighting were essentially called the Lost. How does one become a Lost? Because at the end of the day, a Revenant and a Lost are almost one and the same. So when a Revenant's thirst for blood exceeds its threshold, they will be reduced to a Lost. And once they lose their sanity and become a Lost, they will never again be able to go back to being a Revenant. You may think it sounds a bit backwards, but a Lost, or becoming a Lost, is the final stage of a Revenant. Due to the fact that the corrosion by the boar parasite accelerates and fuses at the host and cell level, trying to destroy a boar parasite itself is essentially ashification, because it's practically impossible. A Lost is a true immortal monster that cannot be annihilated, even if its heart is destroyed, and has absolutely no reasoning remaining within it. So with that information, we now know how, firstly, the humans of this world basically disappeared, and we understand how this new form of civilization, aka the Revenants, were born. But just the way that every world seems to have its fair share of crazy or bad people, that's exactly what happens in the world of Q.U.E.E.N. Somebody wants to abuse this idea that Revenants are immortal. But as we did talk about, there are a few defects or shortcomings of a Revenant, most notably being that aggressive thirst for blood. So the Q.U.E.E.N project is a project with the goal of surpassing the homogeneous bloodthirst defect of Revenants and creating the perfect soldier. So think of this piece or portion of the story as people found out, we found out and figured out how to create Revenants. Now how can we abuse that essentially? Right now they kind of have what they call a defect because they have that aggressive thirst for blood, but they wanted to basically eliminate that. So by putting the blood of all living organisms into a boar parasite, success was achieved in the dispersion and suppression of the craving for homogeneous blood, as well as the restraining of thirst symptoms. But the girl that was subject of the experiment could not bear the constant and intense pain she endured, and she ran wild. And this is what led to the Operation Queen Slayer. So with that, that's going to be the end of part 1. So part 2 was going to be really where we get into the meat and gritty, and like I was saying, some overlapping parts that I think we will be playing through in the full game. So if you did enjoy this and you are interested in hearing about this lady that we've seen multiple times now in 1 trailers to the network test at the very start, then leave a like, subscribe, and let me know. So other than that, that's all I gotta say. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace. Lamp with the tape, I'm a legend in the room. J Squad chillin', now my homies bringing boom. Don't try to play the game without asking about the rules. I keep my cards safe, nigga, what you do? Pop it off easy, I'm not trying to snap your neck.